Thank you, Audrey. And as Audrey says, my name is Ashley Johnson, and it's a pleasure to welcome you to our first conference, the Energy Environmental Affairs team here at NBR, our first event of 2022. So we're really delighted to have you all here. This event is part of our project on the Clean Edge Asia Initiative, and we're delighted to be joined by Deputy Assistant Secretary Laura Lochman of the Bureau of Energy Resources, who will provide some opening remarks today. But before I turn to Das Lochman, I did want to briefly hit on two factors that helped shape and inform today's event. The first is thematic, and no one will be surprised because, as we're all well aware, the 26th Conference of the Parties was held in Glasgow at the end of last year. And in the lead up to that event, we really did see an acceleration of efforts from countries across the world to identify net zero carbon emissions plans with varying levels of ambition, either specific sectors or economy-wide decarbonization, based on some of their own levels of development. We also saw notable commitments from both the public and private sectors to increase financing to help fund green investments in clean energy transitions. However, it was also not surprising that these commitments were not enough, and much more is needed to ensure that these energy transitions are also inclusive and equitable. The second factor is programmatic. A key part of our project on Clean Edge Asia is to engage with a variety of stakeholders from research, policy, and the private sector to provide different perspectives and approaches to issues like green transitions, innovative financing, and how communities and underrepresented groups can be better included in this process. We look forward to our sessions today, in which an impressive range of experts, including our second class of Clean Edge Fellows, will examine these challenges. Now, all of you, our participants joining us today, are also a critical part of this mission by raising the important questions and sparking additional dialogue that can help inform future events and eventually shape policy as well. So with a quick note of thanks, again, to all of you for joining us today, to our speakers for sharing their time and contributions, and to our colleagues at the Bureau of Energy Resources for their partnership. Really grateful for all of your time. And of course, we would not be here today without the work done by my colleagues here at NBR as well. Audrey Mossberger, Micah Sindelar, Tom Lutkin, and Chihiro Aita. Really grateful for all the work you do. Making these events happen take a lot of time. So from our participants, our speakers, and my colleagues here, thank you all for your contributions. Now with that, I'm very pleased to introduce our keynote speaker, Deputy Assistant Secretary for Energy Diplomacy, Laura Lochman. Das Lochman has a very distinguished career as a member of the Senior Foreign Service, and I would encourage you to read her full bio, which was included in the agenda, but I will highlight several of her many accomplishments right now. Prior to joining the Bureau of Energy Resources, Das Lochman was the Director of the Office of Canadian Affairs and was also acting DAS of the Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs for Canada, Haiti, and the Caribbean. She's held positions at embassies and consulates across the world, including Denmark, Colombia, Spain, and Russia, and has worked in the bureaus of South Asian Affairs and Ocean International Environmental and Scientific Affairs here in Washington, just to name a portion of her many accomplishments. We're honored to have her share her insights to begin today's conversations. And with that, Das Lochman, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Ashley, for the introduction. And thank you to everyone who has joined this virtual event, and especially to our colleagues across the Indo-Pacific. The U.S. Department of State's Bureau of Energy Resources, which we call ENR, partnered with NBR in 2019 to support energy policy research and exchanges in the United States and throughout the Indo-Pacific region. We are repeatedly impressed with NBR's and the fellows' ability to adapt to a virtual platform since the beginning of the pandemic, but we certainly look forward to being able to interact in person at future events. We are especially excited about launching the third year of the Clean Edge Asia Fellows Program, funded jointly through our partnership with NBR. And we're very pleased to see several of the fellows participating as panel discussants on the Equitable Energy Development theme of today's conference. We see this partnership and the fellows program in particular as a fantastic opportunity to expand our networks with experts and thought leaders in the United States and across the Indo-Pacific region, and reiterate U.S. support for energy security, sustainability, and access. We remain in a period of unprecedented energy transformation, both in terms of energy supply and demand patterns. In recent months, as you know, we have seen global energy prices surge to record highs, and some countries' power sectors have been significantly affected, including India and China. Oil prices have continued to climb as the International Energy Agency stated demand for crude would rise by 500,000 barrels per day as the power sector and heavy industries switch from costly natural gas and coal. OPEC Plus production increases have been moderate, and U.S. producers, by contrast, have been exporting record volumes of the range of energy commodities for months to satisfy increasing global demand. The IEA's recent assessment of the global energy market situation notes that a well-managed transition to clean energy is critical to addressing the current volatility and supply disruptions in the energy market. There is no region where an orderly transition is more important than the Indo-Pacific, as the region is projected to represent more than half of global energy demand growth through 2040. India, for example, will be the single largest driver of energy demand growth globally during that time frame. This growth represents significant opportunities for countries in the region, many of which depend on coal, to choose clean energy solutions to meet future energy demand. For many countries in the region, the rapidly falling costs of renewables means choosing clean energy solutions is the best decision, both environmentally and economically. Policymakers in the Indo-Pacific are also adopting new commitments to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and contribute to a global strategy to combat the climate crisis. Commitments to decarbonize are evidenced by several Indo-Pacific countries signing the Global Methane Pledge to contribute to a 30% reduction in global methane emissions from 2020 levels by 2030. Decarbonization must continue to be the priority, and it is possible, even beneficial, to tackle both the climate crisis and energy security in lockstep. Policymakers are additionally faced with the challenge of building energy sectors equitably that advance domestic economic development and achievement of sustainable development goals. This includes addressing prospective labor market needs that will arise due to changing how the world produces, transports, and consumes energy. The Biden administration has taken on the challenge of an inclusive energy transition that puts workers and communities first, both at home and abroad. The United States has prioritized work internationally on a just and inclusive energy transition at the International Renewable Energy Agency and within the Just Energy Transition Partnership in South Africa, which was signed at COP26. Lessons learned through these engagements are intended to inform our broader work. Secretary Blinken recognized the importance of equitable growth in his speech on a free and open Indo-Pacific in December. And I quote, "People and governments of the region want more, better opportunities for all of their people. They want more chances to connect within their nations, between their nations, around the world. They want to be better prepared for crises like the pandemic that we're living through. They want peace and stability. They want the United States to be a more present and more engaged partner. And above all, they want a region that is more free and more open." In December as well, Secretary Blinken announced the Clean Edge Asia Initiative, which brings together the expertise and innovation of the U.S. government and the private sector to help advance clean energy solutions across the Indo-Pacific region. The State Department's Bureau of Energy Resources leads this whole of government approach, which harnesses the expertise and resources of the U.S. government, as well as the private sector, international financial institutions, and like-minded governments. Our efforts on the ground are inclusive of all stakeholders, including women and disenfranchised communities who bear a disproportionate burden of the negative effects of climate change, pollution, and energy insecurity. We are working to bolster our partners' energy security, support sustainable development goals, and implement decarbonization strategies. We're also working with partners to develop markets that attract private investment, develop transparent energy infrastructure procurement practices, identify and remove impediments to clean energy investment, mobilize financing options, and advance an equitable transition. In addition to the work that ENR does to directly support renewable energy development and the frameworks that allow for it, and in line with the clean energy focus of today's discussions, we are helping bolster global supply chains for critical minerals, which are used in clean energy technologies. We expect a huge increase in demand for these minerals and metals as countries increasingly deploy clean energy solutions. The United States is very active both domestically and internationally in this regard. Through diplomatic engagement and technical assistance, the State Department-led Energy Resource Governance Initiative, ERGI, promotes clean energy mineral supply chains that adhere to the highest environmental, social, and governance standards. ERGI is active across the globe, including in a number of Asian countries. Looking forward, we will increasingly focus on catalyzing investment for clean energy mineral mining and processing projects that respect ESG standards, including the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions in these sectors. Creating a circular economy for these minerals and metals through reuse and recycling is also essential. We are eager to partner with countries in the Indo-Pacific region to enhance mineral supply chains in a way that benefits local economies, protects workers' health and safety, and follows the highest environmental standards. We look forward to expanding our cooperation on this important issue. All of this work, including our partnership with NBR, supports the broad goal of growing access to affordable, reliable, and diverse clean energy in the region. So thank you very much for having me today, and we look forward to the panelists' presentations and to the discussion. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you so much.